Welcome to Sleepy Science. Right now, there is a place on Earth so deep that if Mount Everest were dropped into it, the mountain would disappear. Not sink, not float, disappear. That place is the Mariana Trench. No sunlight has ever stayed there. No sound knows where it comes from. Pressure there is so heavy it can crush steel without noise. And yet, life lives there calmly, slowly, patiently. The strangest part is this. The trench does not feel dangerous. It feels distant, like it is already asleep. Tonight you will hear true facts about the Mariana Trench, facts that move downward, facts that slow your thoughts, facts that never rush. If you enjoy drifting into mystery, subscribe to Sleepy Science. Now let's begin going down. The ocean looks normal when you first see it. Waves move. Light breaks on the surface. Ships travel across it every day. People point at it and say they know what it is. They give it names: Pacific, calm, open water. But that feeling only belongs to the top layer. It belongs to the part we can see. On maps, the ocean looks finished. Blue areas are filled in. Lines are drawn. Depth numbers are written neatly. The Mariana Trench is marked there too, with a thin, dark line and a name placed beside it. It looks small on paper. It looks contained. It looks explained. But maps do not show awareness. They only show location. Most people live their entire lives above the surface. They hear the ocean from far away. They visit beaches. They swim where their feet can still touch the ground. They never think about how much water exists below that point. The surface becomes the ocean in their mind. Everything below feels imaginary. But the Mariana Trench does not care about that idea. It does not react to attention or ignorance. It does not change when someone thinks about it. It existed long before maps were drawn. It will exist long after names fade. It does not explain itself. It simply remains. The surface ocean is loud. Wind moves across it. Waves collide. Boats cut through it. Sunlight reflects and flashes. Birds move above it. This activity creates the illusion that the ocean is alive only here. But the deeper water does not share that behavior. It does not ripple. It does not glitter. It does not announce itself. Just a few meters below the surface, sound changes. Light weakens, movement slows. The ocean already starts to feel different. And yet, most people still believe the important part is what floats on top. They believe depth is empty space. They imagine nothing is happening down there. The Mariana Trench exists because Earth itself never stopped moving. Two massive plates slowly met. One slid under the other, not quickly, not violently, just steadily. Over millions of years, the surface bent downward, not as a sudden crack, but as a long, quiet fold. The trench was not created in a moment. It was created by patience. While forests grew and vanished above, the trench continued forming below. While animals evolved and disappeared, the trench kept deepening. While humans learned to write and build, the trench waited. It did not watch these changes. It did not respond. It simply accepted time. Standing on a ship above the trench feels ordinary. The water looks the same as anywhere else. The horizon is flat. The sky reflects cleanly. There is no sign that the deepest place on Earth lies below. No marker, no shadow, no warning. That is part of what makes it strange. Most dangerous places show themselves. Fire burns bright, storms darken the sky, mountains rise into view. The Mariana Trench does none of this. It hides under normal water. It blends in. It does not demand fear or respect. It remains unnoticed. If you drop something into the ocean here, it does not fall fast. It sinks slowly at first. The surface holds it for a moment. Then gravity takes over. It begins a long descent. That object will pass layers no human body could survive. It will move through zones that do not change for centuries. And no one will see it after the first few seconds. People often imagine the trench as a hole, a single deep drop. But it is not that simple. It is part of a massive system that stretches across the ocean floor. It connects to ridges and slopes. It curves and bends. It is not shaped for human understanding. Above the trench, weather still happens. Storms pass, rain falls, winds shift. None of that reaches the bottom. The surface world believes it controls the ocean, but its influence fades quickly. The deeper water does not react to surface drama, it waits it out. The idea that most of Earth is already asleep is not a metaphor. It is a description. The surface is active, loud, bright, but it is thin, very thin. Compared to the volume below, it is almost nothing. Most of the planet exists in silence, in darkness, in slow motion. The Mariana Trench is a reminder of that imbalance. It shows how small the awake world really is. Everything humans build exists in a narrow layer of comfort. Just beneath it is a place that does not support speed, noise, or urgency. A place where those ideas lose meaning. Even satellites that orbit Earth cannot see the trench directly. They infer its presence through gravity changes, through measurements, through math. The trench is known without being seen. It is confirmed without being touched. It exists in data more than in vision. That distance creates a strange feeling. People know the trench is there. They accept it as a fact, but they do not feel it. It does not enter daily thought. It remains background information, something learned once and then forgotten. Yet the trench holds more water above it than the height of the tallest mountains. It holds pressure that reshapes matter. It holds a history that never surfaces. It holds living systems that do not depend on light or warmth. All of that exists beneath calm waves. The ocean does not explain the Mariana Trench because it does not need to. Explanation is a human habit. The trench operates without instruction. It does not invite curiosity. It does not resist it either. It simply continues. If the surface world disappeared tomorrow, the trench would not notice. Its processes would continue unchanged. Sediment would still drift down. Plates would still move. Water would still press inward. Life would still exist in ways unseen. The story of the Mariana Trench does not begin with danger. It begins with absence. Absence of light, absence of noise, absence of reaction. That absence feels unsettling at first. Then it feels steady. Then it feels normal. The deeper you think about it, the quieter everything becomes. The surface fades. The idea of control fades. The ocean stops performing. What remains is depth without explanation, a place that does not rush, a place that does not wake. And this is only the beginning. The descent does not feel like falling. It feels like leaving something behind. At first, the surface is still close. Light moves freely. The water holds color. Sun rays bend and scatter. Everything still looks familiar enough to trust. As you move deeper, the light does not disappear at once. It thins, it stretches, it becomes less useful. Brightness fades before shape does. Objects still exist, but their edges soften. The ocean stops acting like a mirror. Red is the first color to leave. It vanishes quietly. Blood would not look red here. It would look dark, almost black. Orange follows after. Then yellow begins to weaken. Colors do not fight to stay. They simply stop returning. This is not darkness yet. It is something slower, a dimming that feels permanent. Looking upward still shows light, but it feels far away. The surface becomes an idea rather than a place. Fish that live here understand this zone well. Many still have eyes, but they do not rely on them fully. Shapes matter less than movement. Shadows matter more than color. Vision becomes cautious. At this depth, the ocean feels wider. Not because it is larger, but because reference points are gone. There is no ground, no sky, just water extending in every direction. Light no longer helps you measure distance. Everything feels equally far. Sunlight breaks into pieces as it travels down. Waves above bend it, particles scatter it. By the time it reaches this level, it has been used up, not destroyed, just spent. There is no fresh supply arriving quickly. Some animals here create their own light, not for beauty, not for comfort, for survival, small flashes, brief glows, signals that last only a moment. Light becomes a tool, not a background, but even this light is limited. It does not travel far, it does not fill space. It exists, then disappears. Darkness absorbs it without effort. The ocean is not afraid of losing light. It does not react. It does not change behavior. The water continues moving slowly. Currents shift without guidance. Life adapts without complaint. At a certain point, the idea of color stops mattering. Everything looks blue or gray. Then even blue begins to fail. The eye searches for contrast and finds none. Vision becomes more about guessing than seeing. Humans often imagine darkness as sudden, like a switch turning off. But here it is gradual, predictable, almost polite. Each layer takes a little more light away until there is nothing left to take. Looking down no longer gives information. Looking up no longer helps. The ocean stops reflecting your presence back to you. You are not confirmed by sight. You exist without proof. This changes the mind. When nothing reflects you, you begin to lose scale. Distance feels uncertain. Time feels stretched. Movement feels slower even when it is not. At this depth, the sun is no longer a source. It is a memory. Light that arrives here is old. It has traveled far. It has been weakened by distance and interference. It does not carry warmth, only faint visibility. Plants cannot live here. Photosynthesis stops above this zone. Life below must find other ways. The world stops being powered by the sun and begins relying on leftovers. Energy drifts downward slowly. The water grows colder, not sharply, gradually. Temperature does not drop in steps. It eases downward. Cold becomes normal before it is noticed. Some creatures have eyes that point upward. They do not look forward. They do not look down. They wait for shapes against the faint remaining glow. They watch for silhouettes, not color. The surface world still believes it is in control. Weather continues. Days pass. But none of that reaches here. Light does not carry messages anymore. Darkness filters everything. This is where human imagination often fails. People imagine fear, panic, chaos. But the ocean here feels settled, organized, balanced. Darkness is not an emergency. It is the expected state. Even machines struggle here. Cameras need artificial light. Without it, there is nothing to record. Data stops being visual. It becomes numbers and pressure readings. The moment light fully stops is not marked by drama. There is no clear line, no signal. One moment you still see faint shapes. The next, you realize you have been staring into nothing for some time. That realization arrives late. Darkness does not announce itself. It waits until you accept it. From this point on, the ocean does not show itself. It must be felt. It must be measured. It must be trusted without confirmation. This is where the world stops reflecting itself back. No light returns to say what exists. Space feels deeper. Silence feels heavier. The descent continues, but sight is no longer part of it. What remains is movement without vision, presence without shape, a slow drift into a place that does not need to be seen. And below this, the pressure is already waiting. The water does not feel heavier at first. It feels the same as before. It moves the same way. It surrounds everything evenly. There is no signal that anything has changed. That is how pressure works here. It does not announce itself. With every meter downward, more water stacks on top of itself. One layer presses on another, then another, then another. No single layer feels dangerous. but together they become something powerful. Pressure builds without sound, without vibration, without warning. At the surface, pressure is gentle, the body is used to it, ears adjust, lungs work easily, but deeper down, pressure becomes constant. It does not come and go, it does not pulse, it stays. What makes pressure unsettling is that it feels calm. There is no shaking, no sharp force. Nothing pushes you sideways. Everything presses inward evenly from all directions. There is no direction to escape. Human bodies are not designed for this. Air spaces become weak points. Lungs, sinuses, even small pockets inside bones. Pressure does not crush suddenly. It squeezes slowly. It waits for imbalance. Metal behaves differently here too. Steel that holds buildings together above water can bend silently below. Glass does not shatter with noise. It collapses inward quietly. Pressure does not attack. It surrounds. Submarines are built to resist this force. Their shapes are rounded, smooth. No sharp corners. Pressure likes edges. It finds weakness where shapes change suddenly. Even the strongest machines respect that rule. As depth increases, pressure does not feel stronger. It feels more complete. There is no empty space left, no relief. Everything is filled. Even the idea of light feels compressed. The ocean does not hurry this process. It takes its time. Pressure grows at a steady rate, predictable, patient. It does not care if something is ready or not. Creatures that live here are shaped by this force. Their bodies do not fight pressure. They accept it. No large air spaces. No rigid bones that could snap. Many are soft, flexible, designed to bend rather than resist. Some fish here would explode if brought to the surface, not because they are fragile, but because they are perfectly balanced for depth. Pressure holds them together. Remove it and balance is lost. This reveals something important. Pressure is not always destructive. It can also be stabilizing. It creates a kind of order, a quiet control that keeps things as they are. Machines that descend too fast do not survive. Pressure must be met slowly, gradually. If the change happens too quickly, structures fail. Even technology must move at the ocean's pace. At extreme depth, pressure becomes hard to imagine. Numbers lose meaning. Tons of force press on every small area, but still there is no noise, no shaking, just constant presence. The ocean does not threaten, it applies. That is what makes it unsettling. Danger does not rush toward you. It is already there, surrounding everything, waiting for weakness. Humans often expect danger to feel dramatic, loud, fast, obvious. Pressure is none of those things. It feels like nothing at all, until it feels like too much. Sensors feel it better than people. Numbers climb steadily, gauges move slowly. There is no moment of surprise, only confirmation that depth is increasing. At this stage, even movement changes. Objects fall slower, not because gravity weakens, but because density increases. Water resists motion more strongly. Everything becomes deliberate. Pressure also affects sound. Vibrations travel differently. Some frequencies fade, others stretch. Noise becomes less sharp, more distant. Silence feels thicker. The deeper you go, the less room there is for error. Not because pressure becomes violent, but because tolerance disappears. Everything must fit perfectly. Every seal, every joint, every material choice matters. Life here does not rush because rushing wastes energy. Pressure makes quick movement costly. Slow motion becomes efficient. Calm becomes practical. There is no sudden point where pressure becomes deadly. That idea belongs to shallow thinking. Pressure is deadly when it is ignored, when something assumes it can resist instead of adapt. The ocean does not test strength. It tests balance. Anything that works with pressure survives. Anything that fights it eventually fails. This is why the trench feels quiet, not empty but controlled. Pressure smooths chaos. It limits sudden change. It enforces patience. Above, the surface world expands outward. Things rise. Things spread. Here, everything turns inward. Compression replaces expansion. Stillness replaces motion. And the deeper the descent continues, the more complete that inward force becomes. Pressure keeps building, calmly, constantly. Below this point, the seafloor is no longer far away. But the journey is not about reaching it. It is about remaining intact along the way, because pressure does not announce itself. It only waits. The bottom of the ocean does not look like a flat floor. It looks like a world that no human has ever walked. Mountains rise slowly out of the darkness. Valleys stretch farther than eyes can reach. Ridges curve and fold like waves frozen in time. Nothing about it is smooth. Nothing about it is simple. As you move closer, the seafloor begins to show its structure. Slopes appear first. Gentle at first, then sharper, as if the earth itself is bending under its own weight. Terraces form, small steps in a world without stairs. Some rise hundreds of meters. Others are barely noticeable. Each one is older than most cities, older than most mountains. Hidden valleys are everywhere. They run between ridges, creating spaces that sunlight will never reach. These valleys are quiet. They are insulated from the chaos above. Currents move slowly through them. Sediment falls into them. For creatures living here, these valleys are shelter. They are homes built by time and gravity, not by design. Rocks on the seafloor are not sharp like they might be on land. Many are rounded by millions of years of water pressing and rubbing. Others are jagged, shaped by movement of the earth beneath. Volcanoes erupt here too, though slowly and rarely. Their peaks are sharp reminders that even in darkness, the earth is alive. The scale of the trench is hard to imagine. The Mariana Trench is more than 11 kilometers deep. It is longer than many countries, and it is wide enough to hold entire continents side by side. Standing above it on the surface, it feels small, flat. On the bottom, the vastness becomes clear. The deeper you go, the stranger it feels. Objects that seem close are actually far away. Valleys seem narrow, then open into vast plains. Ridges look isolated, but each is part of a larger system stretching for hundreds of kilometers. Distance is unreliable. Depth does not match expectation. The mind struggles to measure what the body cannot feel. Even currents move differently here. They do not rush. They do not push with sudden force. They follow the shape of the floor. They slide into valleys. They flow along ridges. Water is not a uniform mass. It respects the terrain beneath it. Each slope, each terrace, each hidden dip guides it without sound or notice. Sediment slowly falls from above. Dead plankton, ash from distant volcanoes, particles of rock. It lands layer by layer. Over centuries, some valleys fill, creating new terraces. Some peaks are buried under sand. The geography changes, but almost imperceptibly. What seems permanent today may be different in 1,000 years. Life moves through this terrain carefully. Fish do not swim in straight lines. They follow the curves of the seafloor. Crabs and worms crawl over sediment, never leaving trails that last long. Creatures that live here do not need speed. They move with the shape of the land, not against it. The darkness above the seafloor changes perception. Shadows exist, but they are soft. Depth is not measured by sight. It is measured by pressure, by resistance, by temperature. Every slope, every dip, every ridge tells a story without words. Submersibles that reach this depth use sonar to map the land. They send out signals. They listen to echoes. From these, they create shapes. Maps that look like mountains, valleys, and terraces appear on screens. Even so, these maps are only hints. Nothing compares to actually being there. The sense of scale, the weight of water, the endless distance, those cannot be captured fully. Some ridges are home to hydrothermal vents. Water escapes from cracks in the earth, heated from below. The vents glow faintly with chemicals, not light. Strange creatures cluster around them. Tube worms, crabs, and fish that survive without sunlight. The vents are small islands in the quiet sea, offering warmth and food in a world where both are rare. The geography creates microhabitats. Valleys collect sediment and nutrients. Slopes provide protection from currents. Peaks rise above slow movement, giving space for creatures to gather. Even tiny details matter here. A small rock can change where a worm lives. A slight dip can shelter an egg. The land shapes life. The trench is not flat or symmetrical. It curves, twists, and turns. Parts of it are almost vertical. Some areas resemble deep canyons on land. Others are smooth plains that stretch endlessly. Each section is a new landscape, a new world. Nothing repeats exactly. The ocean above the floor continues to move. Waves ripple, currents swirl, but the bottom moves at its own pace. Sediment slides only when the slope is too steep. Rocks shift only when pressure builds. Mountains grow slowly as tectonic plates push them together. Valleys deepen as plates pull apart. Even time feels different here. A slope that looks unchanged may have formed over millions of years. A valley may have existed longer than any human civilization. Geography here is patient. It does not hurry. It waits. Some creatures cling to rocks, using the shapes as shelter. Others crawl over terraces, hunting slowly. The land is part of them as much as the water. The geography shapes behavior. It shapes survival. It shapes existence itself. Exploration is limited. Only a few submersibles have reached the deepest points. Cameras show peaks and valleys. Sensors record slopes. Maps reveal ridges, but no one has truly walked this land. No human foot has left a mark. It remains untouched, quiet, remote, permanent. Even with machines, sense of scale is hard to hold. Valleys appear smaller on screens. Ridges appear closer. The mind cannot easily match sight to reality. Distance is deceptive. Size is deceptive. Depth is deceptive. The ocean does not announce changes in the floor. A ridge is built slowly. A valley deepens slowly. A slope shifts slowly. It is almost imperceptible. Nothing moves with urgency. Nothing moves with alarm. The geography only exists. This slow landscape has its own rhythm. Rocks slide, sediment settles. Water flows along terraces. Creatures move over and around. Currents twist and bend. Each action is small, almost invisible, but combined they create a world. A world that is alive without noise. The seafloor is not just bottom. It is a hidden world beneath a hidden world. It has its own shapes, its own laws, its own patterns. Mountains, valleys, terraces, ridges all exist in silence. Nothing demands attention, yet everything has purpose. Being here changes perception. Scale no longer matches experience. Distance is unreliable. Height is meaningless. Depth is absolute. The geography teaches patience. It teaches quiet. It teaches that even in darkness, the land below continues to form, to shape, to hold life without notice. The Mariana Trench is not a hole. It is a living landscape, slowly forming, slowly moving, slowly holding life, slowly waiting, and it is only beginning to reveal its secrets. Life in the Mariana Trench does not behave like life on the surface. There is no rush, no show of strength, no frantic chase. Creatures move slowly, almost as if they are aware that speed is useless here. The pressure is too heavy. The darkness is too complete. The energy is too scarce. Patience is the only way to survive. Some animals do not have eyes at all. They do not need them. There is no sunlight to see. Shadows are meaningless. Instead, they feel the water around them. They sense vibrations. Tiny movements tell them where food has landed or where a predator might pass. Life here depends on subtlety rather than sight. Color is also missing. There is no red, no yellow, no green. Even the deepest blues fade with depth. Some creatures are transparent, their bodies almost invisible. Others are black, blending with the darkness. Patterns and markings do not exist because they serve no purpose. Camouflage is useless in a place where everything is already dark. Energy is scarce. Food falls slowly from above, like rain in slow motion. Dead plankton, tiny animals, even waste from creatures closer to the surface. By the time it reaches this depth, it is broken down, tiny and fragile. There is no abundance. Life must accept whatever comes. It cannot choose. Some creatures eat only once a month. Some may wait even longer. Their metabolism is slow. Their movements are calculated. They do not hurry. There is no competition pushing them to fight. There is only the quiet need to survive. Crustaceans crawl along the seafloor, feeling the terrain with their legs. They probe every ridge and valley. Every small crevice might hide food or shelter. They move deliberately. Each step is a careful decision. The ocean's pressure presses on them, but they do not resist it. They are shaped for it. Worms and other tiny animals burrow into the sediment. The sand here is fine, like powder. Each particle moves slowly under weight. These creatures sense changes in the water above them. They react when something lands. They do not rush. They simply adjust. Life here is subtle, almost invisible. Fish that live here rarely swim in groups. Crowds would waste energy. They spread out. They glide over slopes and terraces. They respond to vibrations. They detect the faintest movement of falling matter. Every action is minimal. Every decision is deliberate. Predators exist, but differently than on the surface. They do not chase. They do not hunt quickly. Ambush is common. A fish waits for food to pass near it. Its reaction is almost imperceptible. There is no spectacle. There is only efficiency. Life is practical, not dramatic. Some creatures are strange to the human eye. Jellyfish-like animals float with barely any motion. They extend long tentacles to catch microscopic food. Others resemble crabs but are stretched thin, their bodies adapted to withstand crushing pressure. There is no symmetry, no beauty as humans imagine it, only survival. Reproduction is also slow. Many animals release eggs and sperm into the water, waiting for chance to do its work. Some hold their young longer. Some grow slowly for years before reproducing. Life here does not hurry. Even growth is measured. The trench has existed for millions of years. Life has learned to stay. Species survive by patience, not power. They accept scarcity and pressure. They accept darkness. They accept time as a steady, unchanging force. Some animals rely on the vents in the seafloor. Hot water emerges from cracks, rich with chemicals. Around these vents, life flourishes in small colonies. Tube worms cluster tightly. Crabs and shrimp move among them. Bacteria form mats that capture energy from the chemicals. These microecosystems are rare but productive. They are islands in the silence. Even in these clusters, movement is slow. Nothing rushes. Nothing shows drama. Life is not violent. It does not compete aggressively. It survives in quiet, steady ways. Scavengers are common. Dead animals slowly sink from above. When they arrive, they are soft, broken down by currents and chemical reactions. They provide food for many. Crabs, worms, and fish gather carefully. They do not fight. They share in what is available. Some fish glow faintly. Bioluminescence lights the darkness in tiny pulses. It is not for display or beauty. It is for communication, to attract mates, to signal location, to catch food. Light here is a tool, not decoration. Even bacteria and microscopic life follow this pattern. Growth is slow, activity is quiet. Energy is recycled carefully. Every particle counts. Nothing is wasted. Life here is lean but persistent. Creatures adapt in ways humans rarely notice. Some have soft bodies that compress under pressure. Some have thick membranes that resist crushing. Some sense movement through vibration rather than sight. Each adaptation is subtle. Each adaptation is necessary. The deeper the trench goes, the less life becomes like what we know. Familiar shapes fade. Animals that resemble fish become strange. Jelly-like creatures appear. Worms stretch longer than expected. Crabs with elongated limbs move carefully across the seafloor. Life here does not hurry. It does not panic. It does not rush to escape. Even when predators approach, attacks are measured. Every move costs energy, and energy is precious. Patience is survival. Persistence is survival. Some animals have survived millions of years with almost no change. The trench is their world. They do not need surface light, surface food, or surface time. They exist quietly as though the ocean itself holds them in place. At times, falling material provides sudden abundance. A dead fish from above, a swarm of tiny creatures. Life reacts. There is motion, brief and controlled. Then calm returns. The trench resumes its quiet pace. Even humans cannot survive here without protection. Pressure would crush them. Cold would stop them. Darkness would confuse them. Life here exists in a world where humans are almost irrelevant. It persists on its own terms. Nothing competes too aggressively. Nothing hurries to dominate. Survival is steady. Life does not fight for excess. It only takes what is needed. This is why the Mariana Trench feels strange. It is a place of life, yet life seems almost paused. It exists without urgency. It persists without drama. The creatures here are survivors, not hunters. They are shaped by patience, by pressure, and by the slow rhythm of the deep. Even the most alien-looking creatures are part of the same story. They share the same rules. They share the same rhythm. They have learned to stay, to survive quietly, to exist in the darkness where light and hurry do not reach. The deeper the trench goes, the stranger life becomes, but the same rules hold: patience, persistence, quiet survival. Nothing is wasted, nothing is rushed, nothing is dramatic. And yet life is everywhere, moving slowly, carefully, in ways the surface world rarely sees. This is a place where time stretches, and persistence becomes the strongest power of all. Life here is not adapted for speed or strength. It is adapted for patience, for the steady, quiet presence of the ocean, for survival in the deep where nothing hurries and everything endures. Time in the Mariana Trench is unlike anything on the surface. There is no sunrise, no sunset, no change of seasons. The ocean above still follows those rhythms, but down here they vanish. Light has long left, and with it, the usual ways humans measure time. At this depth, growth slows. A fish that might reach full size in a year at the surface could take decades here. Its movements, its eating, its reproduction, all follow the pace set by the environment, not by the passing of hours or days. Life is patient because it must be. Energy is limited. Speed is a waste. Decay also slows. Dead creatures sink slowly. Their bodies are broken down gradually by chemical reactions and scavengers. Nothing rots quickly. Nothing disappears suddenly. Even the smallest particles can remain for months or years before becoming part of the seafloor. Movement stretches in unusual ways. Fish glide slowly, almost like they are watching themselves move. Crabs crawl deliberately over ridges and terraces. Even when food appears, they do not rush. The ocean is dense. Pressure holds them steady. Energy is precious. Everything is measured. The creatures here experience time differently because they cannot see it. There are no shadows moving across the floor. There is no shifting sun. Nothing signals morning or evening. Only the slow arrival of falling particles or the occasional glow from a vent marks change. Life learns to exist with this quiet, continuous rhythm. Even the vents themselves have a slow pulse. Water seeps from cracks in the seafloor, heated by the earth below. This warmth is steady, almost eternal. Tube worms and crustaceans cluster around the vents. They respond to chemical signals, not to clocks. Time in their world is measured by opportunity, not by hours. The mind of a human would struggle here. Without markers, the passing of seconds becomes meaningless. Minutes stretch, hours vanish. There is no reference for what is long or short. A small action can take far longer than it seems. Perception slows to match the environment. Currents move differently as well. They do not pulse with wind or tide above. They slide along the contours of the seafloor. Sometimes a small surge pushes sediment down a slope, but it is rare. Change is slow. Nothing is abrupt. Every motion is part of the background. Even the concept of lifespan changes. A creature that would live 5 years on the surface may survive 50 here. The slow rhythm reduces risk. Predation is minimal. Growth is steady. Every step, every meal, every movement is deliberate. Time stretches to accommodate life. Some animals appear almost frozen, though they are alive. A jellyfish-like creature floats a few meters above the seafloor, its tentacles barely moving. A crab extends a limb slowly to feel the ground. These movements would seem slow to an observer, but in this environment they are perfectly timed. Pressure also changes perception of time. Actions that take only moments at the surface require more energy here. Every step costs more effort. Every motion is resisted by water and weight. Patience becomes instinct. Rush is impossible. Even curiosity is measured. Decay of organic material also serves as a timeline. Falling plankton or detritus takes weeks to reach the seafloor. By the time it arrives, it is almost unrecognizable. The trench records time through these slow arrivals, layer by layer, particle by particle. Every layer represents months, even years. Submersibles that explore these depths must account for time in unusual ways. Batteries drain slowly. Cameras record sequences over hours that feel like minutes. Sensors track changes that occur over days. What seems fast to a human is slow in the ocean. What seems slow to a human is nearly imperceptible here. Even reproduction is affected. Some species release eggs or spores only after very long periods. Fertilization happens when conditions allow. Growth and hatching may take months or years. Life is paced according to the environment, not to a calendar. The trenches themselves seem timeless. Mountains rise and fall slowly as tectonic plates move. Valleys deepen imperceptibly. Sediment settles. Rocks shift only under extreme pressure. Time leaves traces, but the process is invisible to the human eye. Sound moves slowly as well. Vibrations from a distant source take time to travel. Echoes stretch. Noise does not travel like it does near the surface. Even communication among creatures is slowed. Pulses of light or movement act as signals, but they are subtle. Every interaction is measured. Humans find this unsettling. We are used to measuring time with clocks, with the sun, with seasons. Here, time becomes a background process. Life continues without reference to what we call minutes or hours. There is continuity, but no measurement. There is action, but no urgency. Even death follows the slow rhythm. A body that sinks from above takes weeks to reach the bottom. Scavengers work carefully. Decomposition is gradual. Nothing vanishes suddenly. Layers build slowly on the seafloor, recording passage of time without noise. Energy is the key measure here. Life counts calories and movement, not hours. Time is understood by opportunity, by the arrival of food, by the presence of warmth, by the subtle pulses of chemical signals. The rhythm is quiet, almost imperceptible. Vents provide another sense of timing. Water bubbles out consistently. Tube worms sense warmth and chemical flow. Crabs and shrimp respond to small changes. Even when life moves slowly, it has a sense of rhythm. It does not measure with clocks, but with conditions. The trench itself shows time in its layers. Sediment piles slowly. Valleys deepen. Ridges rise. The landscape changes over millions of years, almost invisible to anyone observing. Time in the Mariana Trench is slow, patient, and almost eternal. Some creatures adapt further. They extend lifespans. They reproduce rarely. They conserve energy. Every action is deliberate. Every movement has weight. Nothing is wasted. Time is respected because it is all they have. Even the smallest particle follows this rhythm. Sand shifts slowly. Plankton sinks. Water flows along terraces. Currents bend around ridges. The environment operates on a timetable humans cannot feel. From above, the ocean may seem chaotic. Waves, storms, currents. But down here, the trench is stable. The passage of time is smooth. The rhythm is continuous. No interruptions. No sudden events. Just endless progression at a pace impossible for humans to perceive fully. Life, decay, movement, sediment, and pressure all share the same slow clock. The deeper you go, the less human time matters. The further you descend, the more natural rhythm dominates. Actions stretch. Moments expand. Change becomes subtle, almost invisible. Humans cannot survive here without technology. Submersibles must provide energy and light. They must account for slow movement. Even exploration requires patience. Machines act in place of time, but they cannot feel it. Only creatures shaped for this environment understand it fully. The trench teaches that time is not always a sequence. Here, it is a background process. Life flows within it. Decay flows within it. Movement stretches. Growth and death occur, but slowly. Time continues, but nothing marks it for human eyes. The Mariana Trench exists in a quiet, patient reality where time is not counted. It is not feared. It is not noticed. It simply moves, carrying everything along with it in silence. Material from the surface never arrives suddenly. There is no crash, no splash, no announcement. Leaves, plankton, dead fish, tiny fragments of rock. They all begin a long, slow journey downward. The water holds them gently at first, then lets gravity take over. But even gravity moves differently here. Motion is resisted by the density of water and the constant pressure above. Nothing falls straight. Currents nudge particles sideways. Eddy currents twist and turn tiny fragments. Sediment shifts slightly on slopes. Minerals that break off from volcanic eruptions float slowly. Dead organisms begin to separate as they descend. Nothing arrives whole. The trench does not allow haste. Everything is broken down by the journey. Some particles fall for weeks before reaching the floor. A leaf that sinks may arrive shredded. The ocean has already acted on it before it lands. Tiny creatures may consume parts along the way. Bacteria colonize fragments. Water filters every piece. The trench does not wait. It only receives what remains. Falling matter becomes part of the trench without resistance. Sediment layers form like a slow, invisible painting. Over centuries, these layers record storms, blooms of plankton, volcanic eruptions, even human pollution. Each layer is a line in a story, written silently and patiently. Even large objects move slowly. Carcasses of larger fish or dead squids descend over days. Crabs and scavengers track them along the way. Pieces fall off first. Tentacles, fins, and shells break free. By the time the remainder lands, it is a fragment of what it once was. The trench never reacts. It only holds. Minerals are similar. Rocks eroded from mountains above sink slowly, layer by layer. Sand is separated from heavier stones. Ash from volcanic eruptions drifts downward in clouds. The particles spread over terraces and ridges. Valleys collect finer sediment, forming soft plains where nothing moves quickly. Even chemicals travel slowly. Nutrients dissolved in water are carried along currents. They reach the seafloor in trace amounts, yet they sustain tiny organisms. The trench becomes a slow conveyor, gathering material from above and feeding life below. The journey changes the material. Dead organisms are broken down. Soft tissue decomposes. Bones become fragile. Organic matter is eaten by small creatures. By the time it reaches the seafloor, it is almost unrecognizable. Yet it still provides energy. The trench does not care about appearance, only survival. Sediment layers tell stories. A sudden storm at the surface may deposit a thin sheet of sand months later. A plankton bloom creates a dense deposit that arrives slowly and settles quietly. Volcanic ash may land hundreds of kilometers from its source. The trench becomes a silent archive, recording surface events without participating. Particles often accumulate in valleys. Ridges receive less. Terraces catch some, but most continue downward. Water shapes where materials settle. Gravity shapes where they stop. The trench itself becomes a sculptor of matter from the world above. Nothing is immediate. Nothing is complete. Even when creatures are carried down, they are altered. Bodies are stripped by scavengers and bacteria. Fish skeletons may separate into ribs, skulls, and fins. Tentacles from squids may land alone. By the time pieces arrive, they have already traveled through weeks of water, time, and pressure. The trench does not hurry the process. There is no urgency. There is no need. Particles arrive when they arrive. Material may fall for days, weeks, or months. The ocean above continues without noticing. Currents, storms, sunlight, all fade in importance by the time the trench receives their contribution. Some minerals sink in clouds. Tiny dust from rivers or volcanic eruptions spreads slowly. The cloud extends for meters, then kilometers. Each particle follows its own path. By the time it settles, it has moved far from its origin. The trench records distance, direction, and time without a single reaction. Even living creatures become part of this slow fall. Eggs, larvae, microscopic animals, dead plankton, all are carried gently. They do not resist. They cannot fight the current or pressure. Their journey is long and subtle. Life above becomes material below. Sediment may accumulate unevenly. Valleys collect more. Slopes retain less. Ridges are partially cleared by small currents. Over centuries, this shapes terraces and plains. The trench forms landscapes from falling matter as much as from tectonic movement. Every particle adds a brushstroke. Every fragment counts. Nothing arrives perfect. Nothing remains untouched. Even hard shells are cracked by pressure. Soft bodies are reshaped by currents. The trench does not repair. It only receives and holds. Bioluminescent creatures sometimes fall from mid-water. They are faintly alive when they arrive. Their glow fades slowly. Some are consumed immediately by scavengers. Others provide small pulses of light in the darkness. The trench records even these brief arrivals. At times, a large bloom of plankton above sends a flood of particles downward. It takes weeks to settle fully. Some land on ridges, some in valleys. Some are eaten along the way. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is immediate. Every piece follows the slow rhythm of the ocean. Even human debris reaches the trench eventually. Plastic, paint particles, tiny fragments of metal. They descend in slow motion, carried by currents, broken into pieces. By the time they arrive, they are changed, scattered, and silent. The trench holds them without judgment, without noise, without reaction. The long fall of everything teaches something about the trench. It is patient. It is steady. It does not rush. It does not react. It only accepts, collects, and stores. Everything that arrives becomes part of a record. Nothing escapes, yet nothing is obvious. Life on the seafloor depends on this slow arrival. Scavengers and bacteria track the falling matter. Crabs and worms respond to tiny changes. Even large fish move only when necessary. Everything is measured. Energy is limited. Patience is survival. The ocean above continues to operate in chaos. Waves crash, storms rage, creatures hunt, currents twist. Yet below in the trench, every arrival is calm. Even destruction is gentle. Even decay is slow. The trench becomes a mirror of the surface, not in speed or spectacle but in accumulated history. Nothing arrives whole, yet everything contributes. A dead fish becomes food for many. A fragment of rock becomes part of a ridge. Ash and plankton form sediment layers. The trench records these events silently. It never announces what it receives. It never reacts, it simply holds. The deeper you go, the slower it feels. Minutes stretch, days stretch, weeks stretch. Even centuries become a single line of movement. The fall of everything takes time, and the trench takes time with it. There is no hurry. There is no drama. There is only the slow accumulation of matter and history. By the time particles land, the trench has already adapted. Valleys hold what arrives, ridges guide it, slopes redirect it. Every terrace becomes a resting place. Every valley becomes a collector. Nothing is lost. Nothing is immediate. The Mariana Trench is the ultimate archive. It takes what the surface discards, what the ocean above releases, what life produces or loses. Nothing arrives whole, nothing arrives fast, yet everything is preserved. Every particle, every fragment, every living or dead organism contributes to the ongoing story of the deepest place on Earth. Sound in the Mariana Trench is not like sound on the surface. There are no echoes from walls or cliffs. There is no clear direction to follow. Vibrations move through the water, but they twist and bend. Waves collide, scatter, and change speed. A noise may arrive, but it carries no clue where it came from. Even loud sounds above, like storms or crashing waves, fade long before they reach the bottom. By the time they arrive, they are just whispers. Nothing is sharp. Nothing is immediate. Even human-made sounds, machines, or sonar signals become distorted, stretched, or muted. The trench takes sound and transforms it. Some creatures here rely on sound. Their calls, clicks, or pulses serve to communicate, to attract mates, or to find food. But at this depth, signals are unreliable. They lose direction. A fish might hear a message but not know which way to swim. The sound is present, but guidance is gone. Sound stretches in the water. A pulse that lasts a second near the surface may take minutes to arrive here. It is slowed by pressure, bent by density, and scattered by terrain. Valleys, ridges, and terraces all interfere. The ocean floor acts like a filter, reshaping vibrations. The deeper you go, the less human perception can track it. On the surface, noise is directional. You know where it comes from. You can follow it. Here, sound is just an idea. It exists, but it cannot be pinned down. It floats in the water. It surrounds you. It has no face. Communication among creatures is subtle. Bioluminescence often replaces sound. Gentle vibrations tell close neighbors of presence. Tiny movements or chemical signals serve as messages. Sound alone is unreliable, directionless. It carries information in volume but not in path. Even natural events above create strange noises here. A whale call might reach the trench, but it arrives as a faint, stretched echo. Its source is lost. You can hear it, but you cannot know where it came from. Storms, volcanic eruptions, and underwater earthquakes behave the same way. They leave traces, not instructions. Pressure affects sound too. Vibrations compress and expand unpredictably. Frequencies shift. Low sounds travel farther, high sounds fade quickly. Noise loses its clarity. The ocean turns distinct signals into a blur. Sound is present, but meaning fades. For humans, this would feel confusing. A noise exists, but it gives no guidance. Even sonar is distorted. Signals return late, bent by terrain. The deeper the descent, the less helpful hearing becomes. Only the closest signals can be interpreted accurately. Everything else is noise without direction. Animals adapt to this reality. Fish use lateral lines to sense vibrations in nearby water. Crustaceans feel pulses through their legs. Tubeworms sense changes in flow near vents. All of these methods work only in short ranges. Beyond that, sound becomes chaotic, meaningless. A call from a mate may travel only a few meters before losing its path. Predators must rely on touch, vibration, or chemical cues. They cannot trust the distance or direction of a sound. Ambushes happen slowly. Chase is measured and deliberate. The trench shapes behavior through sound itself. Even falling material creates noise, but it is muted and directionless. A dead plankton cluster lands softly. A sediment cloud settles. A rock slides down a slope. Each creates vibration, but it arrives scattered and transformed. Life senses these, but interpretation is limited. Currents carry sound in unexpected ways. A noise from the left may appear on the right. Upward or downward propagation is twisted by density and temperature. Valleys and ridges bend waves. Water becomes a medium that hides origin as much as it carries it. Some bioluminescent creatures synchronize faint flashes with sound vibrations. The flash confirms the presence of a signal, but even then, direction remains uncertain. Communication becomes local, intimate, and deliberate. Only immediate neighbors can respond reliably. Even human exploration struggles. Cameras can see, but microphones hear little. Recorded sound is strange, stretched, distorted. Sonar signals bounce unpredictably. Machines are slowed by the same rules. Sound cannot be trusted to guide movement. The trench is filled with persistent, low-level hums. Some are natural, currents moving over ridges, water compressing under weight. Some may be biological, faint pulses from life forms. None carry direction. None announce themselves. They exist as background, constant and enveloping. For creatures, this creates a world without certainty. A predator may sense movement but not know where it came from. A mate may signal presence, but the path is unclear. Survival depends on local perception and patience. Patience is more reliable than reaction. Even falling objects follow the same rule. A particle hitting the seafloor creates a small vibration. It spreads through the water. Nearby scavengers notice. Farther away, it is lost. Nothing travels clearly across distance. Direction is erased by water and pressure. The ocean above may seem noisy, active, chaotic. But here, the trench filters everything. Noise becomes rhythmless, directionless. It is presence without guidance. Sound is a shadow of itself. Information exists, but meaning is blurred. Humans would find this disorienting. Signals arrive, but origin is invisible. Noise floats in all directions, surrounding everything equally. You can listen, but understanding fades. The trench turns hearing into awareness without certainty. Even bioluminescent signals, synchronized with faint vibrations, confirm presence but not path. Life survives by sensing immediate surroundings, not by interpreting long-range signals. Sound loses its traditional purpose. It becomes part of the environment, not a tool. The deeper you go, the more complete this effect becomes. Sounds from above, sounds from below, sounds from the sides all lose coherence. Direction disappears first. Clarity disappears next. What remains is vibration, subtle, present, unavoidable. The trench does not hide sound. It transforms it. It strips away certainty. It makes all signals equal. Life adapts, machines struggle. Humans cannot comprehend fully. Sound exists, but it cannot lead, it cannot guide. It only informs the quiet, patient presence of the deep. In this place, listening does not equal understanding. The deep ocean teaches that noise is only part of communication. Interpretation must come from touch, chemical signals, and local observation. The trench is a school of patience, of subtlety, of awareness without direction. Even when a creature calls or a particle lands, the result is a whisper without origin. The Mariana Trench is a world where sound loses meaning. It is present, but direction disappears. Awareness continues, but certainty fades. Human presence in the Mariana Trench is fleeting. Machines descend slowly through the water. Probes, sensors, and cameras are the only tools that reach these depths. They carry light, instruments, and fragile human design, but they do not conquer the space. They only visit briefly. The descent is careful. Pressure is extreme. Every meter adds weight. The trench does not change because of these machines. It only receives them like it receives falling particles. No shock, no noise, no reaction. Humans arrive and then they retreat. Cameras capture ridges and valleys. Lights reveal rocks, sediments, and the occasional creature. But the glow is temporary. As soon as the human machine retreats, darkness swallows everything. The ocean floor returns to its quiet rhythm. Nothing is disturbed permanently. Sensors record temperature, pressure, and chemical levels. They gather information about currents, sediment, and life. Even then, the data is limited. The trench moves too slowly for most measurements. Changes occur over decades or centuries. Human instruments only record a moment. A single snapshot in a patient, vast world. Robotic arms touch the seafloor. A probe picks up a rock. It senses texture, weight, and density. Then it releases the rock. Nothing changes. The ocean holds everything as it was before. Human hands leave no trace. The trench remains indifferent. Submersibles encounter creatures. Fish that glide over ridges, crabs that crawl across sediment, tube worms clinging to vents. Most observe and continue. Few are startled. Few react. Life here is accustomed to slow changes. A brief human touch is almost imperceptible. Even falling material is unaffected. Sediment layers continue to accumulate. Particles from the surface settle as always. Dead organisms sink and are consumed. Currents flow along terraces and valleys. Nothing human has added alters the rhythm. Machines face limits too. Pressure can crush parts. Cold slows mechanisms. Water resists movement. Every action is deliberate. Explorers cannot hurry. Even technology must obey the slow pace of the trench. Patience is not a suggestion. It is a requirement. Communication from machines is slow. Signals travel upward to ships or satellites. Data arrives hours later. Humans watch images of life that is already beyond their reach. The trench continues without waiting. Observation is brief. Reality moves on. Humans bring light, but it does not last. Shadows appear briefly on ridges. The glow of the submersible illuminates a vent or a valley. A fish glows faintly. Then the machine moves and darkness resumes. Light above cannot penetrate this depth naturally. Human light is fleeting. Even when samples are collected, the impact is small. A rock is removed. A water sample is taken. Tiny sediment is disturbed. But the trench is vast. Valleys, ridges, and terraces quickly cover what was touched. Recovery is silent. Recovery is immediate in geological terms. The environment absorbs everything. Some human tools measure life forms. Cameras capture bioluminescent flashes. Sensors track movements. They record, but they do not interfere. Creatures resume their routines as soon as the equipment moves away. The trench does not bend to observation. It merely hosts it. The first human touch is gentle by necessity. Machines are designed to survive pressure, but they are fragile. Rigid structures can break. Flexible structures bend. Human design is temporary here. The trench does not require conquest. It does not reward effort. It only exists. Explorers are aware of their limits. Every descent is a negotiation with the environment. No rapid movement. No loud instruments. No disruption. The ocean imposes patience. Machines are slow, deliberate, precise. Human presence is cautious because it must be. Even when humans aim to map the terrain, the results are partial. Sonar images reveal ridges, terraces, and valleys, but only snapshots. Depth, pressure, and water density distort signals. Nothing is complete. Nothing is final. The trench remains larger, stranger, and more patient than any human attempt to know it. Interactions with life are brief. Crustaceans may retreat slightly. Tubeworms remain clinging. Fish glide slowly out of reach. Machines cannot follow. The ocean floor remains mostly untouched. Observation does not equal influence. Recording does not equal change. Submersibles leave behind almost nothing. Water surrounds them. Pressure presses evenly. Darkness swallows every light. Sediment quickly covers minor disturbances. Humans touch, observe, and depart. The trench continues as it always has. Even noise from machinery does not travel far. Vibrations are dampened by dense water and distance. Direction is lost. Nearby creatures might notice, but distant life remains unaffected. The trench absorbs sound, transforms it, and erases its origin. This brief human presence highlights a truth. The Mariana Trench is larger, older, and more patient than any human attempt to measure it. Machines can reach it. Cameras can record it. Sensors can track small data points. But the trench itself is unchanged. It continues quietly, impervious to intrusion. Humans bring curiosity and instruments. They carry light, cameras, and data. But they do not control the space. They only touch. They only observe. They leave almost immediately. And in doing so, they learn the most important lesson. The trench exists on its own terms. Even as probes rise back to the surface, they take fragments of information but nothing else. The deep remains quiet. Sediment continues to settle. Particles fall from above. Creatures continue their slow, deliberate lives. Valleys, ridges, terraces, all remain as they were. The first human touch is fleeting, a moment in geological time, a brief interaction in a world that measures time differently. The Mariana Trench receives, absorbs, and continues. It does not notice. It does not react. It does not hurry. This small intrusion reminds us how patient the trench is, how vast, how quiet. Human presence is almost irrelevant. Life continues. Time continues. Sediment falls. Pressure presses. Darkness remains complete. The Mariana Trench does not need attention to continue. Even when humans return repeatedly, their visits are only small ripples on the surface of a vast, slow, and patient world. The trench records, holds, and endures. Observation is temporary. Existence is permanent. The first human touch is brief, but the trench remains. Even at the very bottom, the Mariana Trench does not feel finished. The Challenger Deep lies beneath the darkness. It is the deepest point humans have measured, yet it does not announce itself. There is no climax, no grand display, no sign that arrival has meaning. The seafloor exists quietly, evenly, endlessly. Submersibles reach this depth with effort and care. Lights illuminate the area, showing small ridges, terraces, and sediment plains. Tiny creatures float near vents or cling to cracks. But the floor is not a destination. It does not stop the water. It does not stop the falling particles. It does not stop the slow flow of life. Pressure here is immense. Every square inch feels weight from miles of water above. Machines compress, materials stretch. Every motion is slow and deliberate. Even with technology, humans cannot fully grasp the reality. The trench resists closure. It only allows presence. The ground appears solid, but it is not absolute. Sediment covers it like a soft blanket. Rocks shift slowly under pressure. Valleys and ridges continue to evolve, although almost imperceptibly. Even the floor has motion. It does not freeze time or space. It only continues the pattern of the trench. Creatures continue their slow routines. Crustaceans crawl carefully over the sediment. Tubeworms extend their plumes around vents. Fish glide without urgency. Life here does not pause at the bottom. The Challenger Deep is just another layer in a much larger world. Falling material continues to arrive. Dead plankton, fragments of rock, ash from distant volcanoes. Even at the deepest point, particles settle slowly. They do not arrive all at once. They do not announce themselves. The trench receives them silently. Nothing here signals completion. Even light behaves strangely. Human illumination reaches only a few meters around a submersible. Bioluminescent flashes appear faintly, showing nearby life. Beyond that, darkness continues. There is no horizon. No wall or edge signals the end. The bottom is only a floor in a much larger, endless space. Chemical processes continue steadily. Water carries nutrients. Minerals move slowly through the sediment. Life relies on these. The deep floor is part of a system. Nothing stops. Nothing pauses. Arrival does not equal conclusion. Machines provide a glimpse, but only briefly. Cameras record ridges and valleys. Sensors measure pressure, temperature, and chemical content. The data is limited. The trench does not bend to human curiosity. It continues silently, entirely indifferent to the notion of an endpoint. Even the animals here remind humans that the bottom is not final. Crustaceans pick at sediment. Fish glide along terraces. Bioluminescent creatures flicker in patterns. Their lives are continuous. They do not react to human arrival as though it changes the world. Time continues uninterrupted. Sediment layers build slowly, even at this depth. Tiny particles accumulate. Every fallen fragment contributes to a record that is far larger than human perception. Rocks compress. Valleys deepen. Ridges rise. Even at the bottom, the Mariana Trench continues its slow shaping. Currents still flow. Water moves along terraces and slopes. Chemical gradients shift gradually. Nothing is stagnant. The bottom is not an end. It is another point in a vast, continuous system. The trench does not stop. It does not pause. It does not announce arrival. Even bioluminescence behaves as usual. Creatures flash and pulse near vents. They signal presence, mating, or feeding, but there is no climax. There is no final stage. The signals fade quickly. Darkness remains. The bottom is just another place in the trench. Human exploration teaches the same lesson. Reaching Challenger Deep feels like an endpoint from a surface perspective. From below, it is only another depth. The floor does not mark arrival. It does not declare completion. It does not judge the machines or the humans. It only exists. Even sound behaves differently. Vibrations from machines reach a short distance and lose direction. Echoes bend unpredictably. A pulse does not return clearly. The floor does not reflect. The bottom does not communicate an ending. It only holds continuously. Falling matter continues to settle. Dead plankton and fragments from above arrive slowly. Some reach ridges. Some fill valleys. Layers accumulate gently. Even at the deepest point, the trench receives without judgment. Arrival is part of the rhythm, not a climax. The deepest vents continue to emit warmth and chemicals. Tubeworms, crustaceans, and microscopic life thrive in these zones. They have existed here for centuries. Their lives are continuous. Their routines do not change because humans have descended. The trench does not pause for attention. Pressure shapes everything. Even at the bottom, movement is careful. Machines must respond to weight and water density. Creatures must conserve energy. Life and matter both operate within limits. Even the deepest point is not an ultimate challenge. It is simply another layer in a persistent environment. Time remains a silent companion. Growth slows. Decay slows. Particles settle over months or years. Creatures live in a slow rhythm. Humans may measure minutes or hours, but the trench measures centuries. Arrival does not equal significance. Nothing final exists here. The floor is soft in some places, hard in others. Valleys collect sediment. Ridges remain exposed. Small movements occur without notice. Even the submersibles cannot feel these shifts. Human presence is brief. Machines retreat. Darkness returns immediately. The bottom remains. The Challenger Deep is immense. Maps mark it. Names exist. Humans think of it as a goal, yet it does not respond. The floor does not signal success. It does not celebrate arrival. It simply continues the patterns that have existed for millions of years. Even the tiniest particles tell the same story. Sediment falls from above. Dead organisms reach the seafloor. Ash and minerals settle. Currents move them slowly. Nothing arrives suddenly. Nothing announces itself. The trench absorbs everything even at its deepest point. Life continues. Crustaceans crawl, fish glide, tubeworms extend. Bioluminescence pulses. The bottom is not static. It is part of a slow, ongoing system. Human concepts of arrival do not apply. There is no completion. There is only continuation. Even as submersibles return to the surface, the floor remains the same. Darkness reclaims the area immediately. Sediment continues to settle. Currents continue to flow. Life persists. Arrival is irrelevant. Observation is temporary. The Mariana Trench continues quietly as it always has. Nothing in this place is final. No floor, no ridge, no vent marks an end. Even the deepest point refuses conclusion. The Mariana Trench is endless, patient, and persistent. Arrival is only a human idea. The trench does not recognize it. It only exists, continues, and endures. Even when humans leave, the Mariana Trench continues. Nothing stops. Nothing waits. The world above may forget it exists. Storms rage. Ships sail. But below, life, water, and sediment follow their own rules. The trench does not require witnesses. It moves, shifts, and grows on its own. Tectonic plates push and pull beneath the ocean floor. Mountains rise imperceptibly. Valleys deepen. The seafloor slowly reshapes itself. No human eyes are needed. Even without observation, the trench maintains its slow, deliberate evolution. Every ridge, every terrace, every depression is formed by forces older than time. Sediment continues to settle. Particles from the surface fall gently. Dead plankton, fragments of rock, ash from volcanoes, all arrive and accumulate without fanfare. The trench collects this material quietly. Over centuries, layers build. They tell stories of the surface world, yet no one is watching. The system does not pause for attention. Life persists in the same quiet rhythm. Crustaceans crawl along sediment. Fish glide over terraces. Tubeworms extend into chemical-rich water near vents. Each creature acts according to its needs and energy. They do not wait for humans or machines. Their cycles continue regardless of observation. Even chemical gradients remain active. Nutrients move slowly. Minerals seep from vents. Water mixes gradually. Tiny organisms feed, reproduce, and die. Reactions occur without announcement. The trench carries on as if humans do not exist. Currents move material along the seafloor. Valleys collect what ridges cannot hold. Terraces guide sediment. Flow is steady but subtle. Nothing rushes. Nothing is wasted. Energy is conserved. The system works without pause. It does not seek acknowledgement. It does not wait for notice. Volcanic activity beneath the seafloor continues. Heat escapes through cracks. Water heats slightly and flows. Minerals are released. Tubeworms and other life forms respond. Yet no eruption declares itself in spectacle. The system works without dramatics, without attention. Even bioluminescent signals operate independently. Creatures flash to attract mates or confuse predators. Pulses of light continue uninterrupted. Life interacts with itself, not with observers. Awareness is local. Observation is irrelevant. The trench does not need witnesses. Falling material from above is constant. Even human debris eventually arrives. Plastic particles, fragments of metal, paint, all sink slowly. Sediment absorbs them. Crustaceans and bacteria interact with these pieces. The trench incorporates everything without notice. The system works without recognition. Pressure remains steady. Every meter of water presses equally. Every organism, machine, and particle is subjected to the same force. The trench does not pause or adjust. It continues to function. Even extremes are part of its ongoing rhythm. Even the smallest creatures maintain routines. Microbes feed on detritus. Tiny crustaceans crawl to new areas. They reproduce slowly. Their life cycles are timed by energy and resources, not by clocks. The trench ensures continuity without observation. Even chemical reactions proceed quietly. Elements interact, form compounds, and sustain life. Minerals from vents dissolve and precipitate. Carbon and nitrogen cycles operate. Life is supported. The trench does not advertise this process. It simply continues. Human technology provides only snapshots. Cameras, probes, and sensors capture brief moments, but the trench does not stop. Sediment settles, water flows, life continues. Machines are temporary. Observation is fleeting. The system does not pause to be recorded. Even sound operates in the same way. Vibrations from distant events carry slowly, bending and scattering. The trench filters signals. Direction and origin are lost, yet the system continues. Creatures perceive what is nearby, respond locally, and life continues uninterrupted. The trench's rhythm is independent of notice. Mountains rise, valleys deepen, particles settle, currents flow. Vents release heat and chemicals, life persists. Nothing in this process requires acknowledgement. Attention is irrelevant. The system does not stop when unseen. Even the largest events are absorbed quietly. A storm above may send debris downward. A landslide along a slope moves sediment into valleys. Volcanic ash drifts from distant eruptions. The trench records these events layer by layer without reaction. Continuation is constant. Crustaceans, fish, and other creatures interact locally. They find food. They reproduce. They consume energy. Predators hunt slowly. Prey hides patiently. Life is steady. Interaction continues without an audience. The trench itself shapes this persistence. Slopes, ridges, and valleys guide material and life. Gravity and pressure determine flow. Currents move sediment. Water carries chemical cues. Even human visits cannot alter these processes. Everything adapts. Everything continues. Even bioluminescent creatures flash in patterns dictated by survival, not observation. Some signals confuse predators, others attract mates. Pulses are local, brief, and precise. Life continues on its own terms without witnesses. Sediment layers grow steadily. Particles from above settle in thin sheets. Valleys collect most of it, ridges catch less. Terraces distribute what remains. The system functions without interruption. The trench archives history in silence. Even the deepest vents work without pause. Hot water flows. Minerals are released. Microbes thrive. Tubeworms extend. Crustaceans gather. Life cycles continue. Chemical processes operate. All happens without attention, without human notice. Currents continue to move water, materials, and energy. Flow adjusts to terrain. Valleys channel sediment. Terraces guide particles. Energy moves slowly but steadily. The trench does not stop. It does not rest. It continues unseen. Even the slow accumulation of falling matter is part of the system. Dead organisms, plankton, ash, and rock arrive gradually. They are consumed, broken down, or incorporated into sediment layers. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is hurried. Continuation does not require witnesses. Even tectonic activity continues quietly. Plates push and pull, earth shifts, valleys deepen, mountains rise, nothing announces itself. Change occurs slowly. The trench absorbs it, life adapts. The system moves forward. Even without light, life continues. Crustaceans crawl, fish glide, tubeworms extend. Microbes feed, bioluminescent creatures flash. The system operates independently of attention. Darkness does not stop processes. Silence does not halt activity. Even human absence does not matter. The trench has no need for acknowledgement. It does not wait for visitors. It does not pause when ignored. Life, sediment, water, and chemical processes all persist. The system works, continuously, silently, unseen. Even the smallest particles are part of this rhythm. Sand settles, plankton sinks. Rocks accumulate. Ash layers form. Currents distribute energy. Everything contributes. Everything continues. Nothing depends on observation. The Mariana Trench teaches a lesson in patience. It moves without notice. Life cycles, sediment accumulation, chemical interactions, and tectonic shifts all operate independently. Attention is not required. Continuation is inherent. The system does not pause when unseen. Even when humans descend and return, the trench does not change. Observation is temporary. Presence is fleeting. Yet all processes persist. Sediment accumulates. Currents flow. Life survives. The trench continues as it always has. The Mariana Trench exists as a world that does not require witnesses. It operates on its own terms. Pressure, darkness, life, water, and sediment continue without pause. Even without observation, the system works. Steady, patient, endless. The Mariana Trench continues downward and the story does not return. There is no surface to aim for, no sun to guide the eye, no waves to indicate arrival. The ocean above fades from thought. All that remains is the abyss itself, endless, patient, and complete in its own way. Even the deepest points do not signal an end. Challenger Deep exists, but it is only another location along a long, silent slope. Rocks, sediment, and chemical layers continue their slow accumulation. Particles fall from above. Dead plankton, fragments of rock, ash from volcanoes, and microscopic debris settle one by one. Each piece tells a story, yet no one is there to read it. Life continues without pause. Crustaceans crawl carefully along terraces. Fish glide in near silence. Tubeworms extend their plumes near vents. Microbes feed on detritus. Bioluminescent flashes flicker briefly in darkness, then vanish. Life adapts, survives, and repeats, unobserved and uninterrupted. Even sound behaves strangely here. Vibrations travel through dense water, bending and stretching, losing direction and certainty. No signal can reliably indicate distance or origin. Calls between creatures become local, intimate, and brief. The trench transforms every sound into presence without meaning. It does not guide. It does not announce. It simply exists. Pressure remains constant and immense. Every square inch is pressed from miles of water above. Even human machines struggle to withstand the weight. Creatures adapt slowly, their bodies shaped by necessity rather than intention. The trench does not pause or react. The weight is always there, steady, impartial, unchanging. Sediment continues to move. Valleys collect what ridges cannot hold. Terraces guide tiny particles into gentle layers. Even large fragments of rock or dead organisms descend slowly, altered by currents, eaten by creatures, or broken by pressure. Nothing lands intact. Nothing arrives suddenly. The trench accepts everything without judgment. Even chemical processes persist. Minerals seep from vents. Dissolved elements circulate slowly. Nutrients feed life. Carbon and nitrogen cycles continue. Reactions occur without attention, without urgency. The trench itself becomes a laboratory of slow, constant processes, operating entirely on its own terms. Falling matter is continuous. Particles from the surface arrive gradually. A storm above sends fragments into the depths, but they do not crash or announce themselves. Plankton settles in slow layers. Ash drifts and lands. Rocks tumble. Everything is measured by time and pressure. The trench records history without audience, without pause, without fanfare. Even human presence is fleeting and inconsequential. Machines descend, illuminate briefly, record moments, and retreat. Lights reveal ridges, valleys, and occasional life. Cameras capture images of creatures, sediment, and mineral deposits. Sensors measure pressure, temperature, and chemicals. And then humans are gone. The trench remains unchanged. It continues. The floor of the Mariana Trench is not a destination. It is not a finish line. Valleys, ridges, and terraces extend endlessly. Currents flow. Sediment accumulates. Microbes feed. Crustaceans crawl. Fish glide. Tubeworms extend. Bioluminescent flashes pulse. Life, matter, and water continue together in a rhythm older than human comprehension. Even the smallest details matter. Tiny particles of sediment accumulate in valleys. A single ash fragment from a volcanic eruption may land hundreds of kilometers away. Dead plankton contributes to layers of food for microbes. Even human debris finds its way slowly to the floor. Every fragment becomes part of the ongoing system. Nothing is wasted. The trench has no concept of beginning or end. Falling matter, life cycles, and chemical reactions continue as if the world above does not exist. Time stretches. Days, weeks, and centuries lose meaning. Growth and decay slow. The passage of years becomes almost invisible. Change happens, but imperceptibly. Even currents operate without interruption. Valleys channel water. Ridges redirect flow. Material moves along predictable paths, yet never in a hurry. The trench shapes its own environment. Life adapts to these patterns. Everything functions without attention, without observation, without the need for human comprehension. The Mariana Trench is immense, patient, and relentless. Nothing stops, nothing hurries. Sediment layers continue. Life continues. Chemical reactions continue. Currents flow. Tectonic plates shift imperceptibly. The deepest places are not final. There is no pinnacle, no edge, no conclusion. Even light behaves differently. Bioluminescence flickers briefly, then fades. Human lights vanish in seconds. Darkness is permanent, complete, and total. It is not absence. It is presence without interruption. It is a world that exists in stillness, yet is never truly still. Even sound loses meaning. Vibrations bend and scatter. Echoes stretch unpredictably. Noise does not travel linearly. Signals do not point to origins. Sound exists, but it cannot guide. It cannot instruct. It cannot announce arrival. The trench surrounds all, yet reveals nothing. Even human knowledge becomes temporary. Maps, names, and measurements capture fragments. They provide insight, but only for a moment. The trench remains vast, unchanged, and beyond full comprehension. Observation is fleeting. Presence is brief. The system continues regardless. The trench is a teacher of patience. It reminds that not all systems require attention. Sediment falls, life persists, pressure presses, darkness reigns, chemical reactions proceed, currents flow, tectonic plates move. All processes continue, unseen, uninterrupted. Even the deepest points refuse to mark an endpoint. Challenger Deep is merely part of the ongoing landscape. Valleys, ridges, terraces, and slopes extend beyond what can be imagined. Material continues to arrive. Life continues to exist. Currents and chemical processes continue. The system simply works. The Mariana Trench is not a story that ends. It is not a sequence with closure. It is not a journey with a return. There is no ascent. There is no reflection. The surface above no longer matters. The world above is no longer referenced. The trench exists on its own. The story stops being narrated because the system never stops functioning. Time becomes irrelevant. Observation becomes optional. Every process, chemical, biological, geological, and physical, carries on without pause. Particles settle, creatures move, currents flow, pressure presses. The Mariana Trench continues as it has for millions of years and will continue for millions more. Even the final fragments from the surface arrive slowly. Plankton, ash, rock, and debris fall and settle. Valleys collect them. Ridges guide them. Sediment layers form quietly. The bottom is not final. Every particle becomes part of the slow, endless accumulation that defines the trench. Life continues without urgency. Crustaceans crawl, fish glide, tubeworms extend, microbes feed, bioluminescent flashes pulse briefly, fading into darkness. Life repeats. Life endures. Life persists without notice, without attention, without conclusion. The Mariana Trench is a place of continuation. It does not respond to observation. It does not pause for presence. It does not hurry. It does not announce itself. It only exists, holding all that arrives, shaping all that falls, sustaining all that lives, and never stopping. Even as we leave the story behind, the trench remains. It continues silently. It continues patiently. It continues endlessly. No ascent will undo it. No observation will complete it. The world above may fade from thought, but the trench continues as it always has and as it always will. The Mariana Trench does not end. It does not close. It does not reflect. It only continues in silence, in darkness, in pressure, in life, in sediment, in water. It is the ultimate system that works without witnesses. It is the story that never concludes. It is the descent that never reverses.